Hello everyone. I'll be giving an extract from the original 150-page document which I presented to AfriForum in September 2019, seeking their intervention in the legal witch hunts which I, as the son of a pastor, have been facing for the past 26 years, orchestrated by corrupt law and church officials. In AfriForum's reply, Advocate Phyllis Foster stated that the fraud committed by corrupt law and church officials during my divorce, maintenance and custody applications in 1995 had prescribed, and that the sabotage of my businesses since 2006 was a civil matter in which an attorney who was in breach of contract had unlawfully took possession of my trust funds, after which she had been orchestrating a legal witch hunt in collusion with Standard Bank South Africa, my bondholder, and Wonderpark Body Corporate, my residential estate, who have been owning my organization more than 500,000 rand. Advocate Phyllis Foster further stated that I was not the plaintiff in the matter in which I had protected my healthy aging parents from 2013 until 2017 against some of the same corrupt law and church officials. During this time, my financial license had been suspended and I was blackmailed with a false arrest after my request for the financial statements of my parents' missionary. This all ended with both my parents passing away 10 days apart under questionable circumstances. Advocate Phyllis Foster further noted that they are not mandated to investigate any of my ordeals, for the SA Police Services have not investigated any crime and therefore the National Prosecuting Authority could not prosecute. The true state of events was that the SA Police Services refused to investigate most of the crimes, and the crimes they did investigate, the dockets would disappear or a magistrate would refuse to prosecute, and that the National Prosecuting Authority did refuse to prosecute a child abuser. AfriForum's constraint to intervene in the legal witch hunts I'm facing is a clear example of how the Deceitful Prescription Act is providing protection to corrupt officials, in that their corrupt governing bodies would prevent prosecution until after the statutory period of the Prescription Act secures a lifelong protection to corrupt officials. The constraint AfriForum faces, I personally had experienced before my resignation as the Pretoria East Youth League chairman, having served between 2015 and 2017. This has moved me to reopen my family and business mediation practice to protect the sincere, in contrast with the broken system who protects the narcissist. As the majority of contested family separations are being exploited by sadistic narcissists, I conduct my practice by the following guidelines. A 6-month timeout period is declared, during which legal action is stopped. A temporary financial arrangement is mediated. 50-50 parenting is implemented to determine who has the true interest of the children at heart. And parties would have little interaction to minimize sabotage, spying, threats and false accusations to reduce anxiety. The 6-month timeout period would also enable parties to find perspective on their way forward by focusing on their career and child enhancement, to prevent their children being scarred for life by the exploitation of system officials. I will also be launching the alternative lifestyle workshops for singles and couples on how to escape, avoid and heal from our broken system through better partner choices and better parenting. In this first video of my 10-video series, I'm revealing the corrupt law and church officials which I have been facing during the legal witch hunts, to create an awareness, and it is my wish to have the corrupt officials removed and replaced with sincere officials like the Honourable Justice Matty Klein and Honourable Lady Justice Slappy, whom I both refer to later in this video. During my divorce application in 1995, Advocate Bertie Blom, as defence advocate, had contacted and consulted with me directly to have my initial divorce application accepted and signed within 3 days, in his efforts to conceal the collusion which I had discovered between the then married attorney Leon Malan and the then unmarried child psychologist Marie Taljaard. After months of fraudulent litigations, during which the traumatization of my then 2- and 7-year-old children took place at the hands of a child abuser and their mother, who had been suffering from a brain tumor. On behalf of those who are unaware of the restrictions on advocates to litigate without the instructions from an attorney or to consult directly with an opposing party, I will refer to the case during the corresponding time between the then advocate Matty Klein and the Law Society, who had been fined by the Law Society for an amount of R1 million after having consulted directly with his own clients in protection of his own clients against exploiting attorneys. I had reported Advocate Bertie Blom in 1997 to the Pretoria Bar, who refused to investigate or prosecute, claiming that Advocate Bertie Blom managed to settle the divorce, which was all that mattered. I also reported Attorney Leon Malan in 1997 to Mr. Langenhoven from the Law Society of Pretoria, today known as the Legal Practitioners Council, who refused to investigate or prosecute, claiming that Attorney Leon Malan had withdrawn from the case, although he had been replaced by his then apprentice attorney, Sarita Kilian-Marais, from the same law firm. I also reported child psychologist Marie Taljaard in 1997 to the Pretoria Department of Health, who refused to investigate, claiming that Marie Taljaard had left the country to settle in the USA. This later turned out to be fabricated, for it was discovered that child psychologists had continued to practice in South Africa. During my custody application in 1997, Advocate Bertie Blom colluded with the SA Police Services to conceal the child abuse and also colluded with the social worker from NG Church Morletta, Elena van Emmenes, to also conceal the child abuse and for her to create a false report which had my children removed from my custody, which I had been granted by Honourable Justice Botha during my urgent notice of motion application in 1997. Advocate Bertie Blom also colluded with Children Court Commissioner Sari Snyman, who blackmailed me that she would place my children in an orphanage if I would pursue to have the child abuser prosecuted. Advocate Bertie Blom further colluded with Reverend Hendrik Simon from NG Church Morletta to have an amount of 80,000 rand donated to my father's missionary for the withdrawal of the support my father had been giving me as a pastor. Reverend Hendrik Simon also arranged a marriage between the child abuser and the mother of my children, which had caused the forced removal of my children from the custody of their mother and their grandparents. During my urgent notice of motion application on the 10th of December 1998, Advocate Bertie Blom attempted to prevent my case from being heard by the High Court by claiming that the Children Court still had the jurisdiction over the case and therefore that the case could not be heard by the High Court. After I had pointed out to Justice Swart that Advocate Bertie Blom was attempting to mislead the High Court, Justice Swart replied that an advocate cannot mislead a court for being briefed by an attorney, on which I had informed Justice Swart that Advocate Bertie Blom had not been briefed by an attorney to oppose my action or to appear in court. Advocate Bertie Blom then admitted that he had not been briefed, on which Justice Swart had my case postponed until January 1999 due to the court recess over December, which then affected the urgency of my case to fall away. Both Advocate Bertie Blom and apprentice attorney Sarita Kilian-Marais then officially withdrew from the case. After these actions, I had approached the Attorney General, today known as the National Prosecuting Authority, who refused to investigate or prosecute the child abuser. I also had reported the Children Court Commissioner, Sari Snyman, to the Magistrate Commission, whom only replied 6 months later to declare that they did not have a mandate to investigate the magistrate, but that the Magistrates Commission had not found any wrongdoing on the side of the Children Court Commissioner, Sari Snyman. In 2014, I again reported Advocate Bertie Blom, this time to the Cape Town Bar, due to his relocation after I had received a police statement from the mother of my children, which declared that she always had received instructions directly from Advocate Bertie Blom, due to the apprentice attorney, Sarita Kilian-Marais, being inexperienced at the time. Ms. Louise Bateman of the Cape Town Bar also refused to investigate Advocate Bertie Blom, declaring that the Cape Town Bar had accepted Advocate Bertie Blom's denial of the declaration. Based on the same police declaration, I also reported attorney Leon Malan and the then attorney Sarita Kilian-Marais to Mr. Fourie from the Pretoria Law Society, who also refused to investigate both attorneys, declaring that too much time had passed and that the investigating board would not be keen to investigate my claims. During these actions, there were constant interferences with my businesses, partners and family members, after which the full-scale sabotage started in 2006 of my financial practice and the national property database I was in the process of developing, orchestrated by attorney Cynthia du Plessis, an employee of Lilla Tinta Incorporated at the time, after her intentional breach of contract and theft of my trust funds. This had caused me to fall in arrears on my bond repayments and residential levies, which had attorney Cynthia du Plessis to collide with Standard Bank South Africa and to have their law firm on record, Haasbroek Boezard Incorporated, replaced by Visie de Beer Incorporated, whom immediately pursued on a witch hunt against me. After me revealing to Standard Bank South Africa of the collusion between attorney Cynthia du Plessis and Visie de Beer Incorporated, with no success, I had approached the High Court with an urgent notice of motion application in 2016, and with the assistance of the truly Honourable Lady Justice Slapi, had Standard Bank withdrew their action and had Visie de Beer Incorporated replaced with Van Holstein attorneys. During my first meeting with Van Holstein attorneys, it came to my knowledge that Visie de Beer Incorporated had provided Van Holstein attorneys with a falsified report. Van Holstein attorneys ignored my revelation and continued with their witch hunt. After these actions in 2019, I had approached Advocate Gary Nel from AfriForum in person to seek their intervention, on which I had received a notification from Advocate Phyllis Foster, as mentioned in the beginning of this video. It is significant to note that after I had informed Van Holstein attorneys of my request for AfriForum's intervention, their witch hunt temporarily came to a standstill, which continued soon after AfriForum had released their notification. Van Holstein attorneys continued with their witch hunt until 2021, after which they withdrew with the reappointment of Visie de Beer Incorporated in 2022. During this ordeal, attorney Cynthia du Plessis also colluded with Wandelpark Body Corporate, who had fraudulently been avoiding to pay my organisation more than 500,000 rand for having performed renovations and safety measures on an emergency basis after an intruder had been shot and killed in contravention of Section 49 of the Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 2003. After I was removed as chairman of Wandelpark Body Corporate in 2010 and replaced by Chairman Derek Grobler, Wandelpark Body Corporate had instructed Mr. Reinhard Meintjes from Rorich Wolmerans Ludrids Incorporated to pursue with a witch hunt against me, who claimed that my organization's claim of more than 500,000 against Wandelpark Body Corporate had prescribed. After I had Mr. Reinhard Meintjes reported to the Legal Practitioners Council, he withdrew and was replaced by Mr. Ras Beyers from the same law firm. After I had reported the successive chairman, Mr. Wessel van Wyk, for him intentionally allowing an owner, Ms. Karina Bernardi, to provide services to men from her home, and his mismanagement of Wandelpark Body Corporate to the Community Schemes Ombud Services and to the SA Police Services for committing criminal injuria and defamation of character, the full Board of Trustees of Wandelpark Body Corporate resigned, with Mr. Wessel van Wyk soon afterwards selling his property and relocating. Law firm Oprop SA, directed by Mr. Rian Oosthuizen, was appointed to perform the functions of the resigning trustees as well as that of a managing agent. On my request, Mr. Rian Oosthuizen refused to investigate the fraud, manslaughter or mismanagement by Wandelpark Body Corporate and continued with their witch hunt against me. Finally, amidst all these actions, I stepped up to protect my aging parents from 2013 until 2017 against three of the trustees of my father's missionary, Pastor Tommy Jooste as secretary, whom also was the pastor at NG Church Silverton and Novus Vita, Reverend Pieter Malan as chairman, whom had also defrauded NG Church Suiderstrand, and Mr. Nico Botha, my eldest brother, as treasurer, all of whom had exploited my parents financially and were attempting to have my aged but healthy parents taken in by an unregistered dementia and Alzheimer's facility in their efforts to conceal their fraud. With my involvement to protect my parents, all 6 trustee members of my father's missionary resigned on the same day, after which I was blackmailed with a false arrest by Pastor Tommy Jooste if I would continue to request the financial statements of my father's missionary. It was also during this time that my financial license had been suspended for 8 months and my parents' medical aid had been cancelled, to which Pastor Tommy Jooste admitted bearing knowledge of. Due to the intensity of the onslaughts, I had sought the assistance of the moderator of the NG Church South Africa, Professor Neelis Niemand, whom notified me that they cannot assist my parents, for my father's missionary was not affiliated with the NG Church of South Africa, which had also confirmed that the donation of 80,000 rand to my father's missionary by Reverend Hendrik Simon from the NG Church Morletta during my divorce was unlawful. Since 2013, on Saturdays, I had been taking my father to the Willows Hospital for his missionary work and my mother to practice her sculpting and pottery hobbies, which my father had prevented her from doing for more than 60 years as it was forbidden in his interpretation of the Second Commandment. In May 2014, at the age of 90, my mother appeared on national television, Kyknet Kwela, as a sculptor, which gave proof of the false claim by the trustees that my mother had been suffering from dementia. After the broadcast, my brother claimed that the video had been made 5 years prior, as he had not only unlawfully sold my mother's pottery wheel and oven as hobby tools for his own financial benefit, but he also had been the puppet who attempted to have my parents taken in by a dementia and Alzheimer's facility. In 2017, my father had been put on medication for his alleged suicidal tendency, which caused his immediate deterioration. On the 30th of May 2017, my father passed away 3 hours after Pastor Tommy Jooste and I were in an altercation at the Silverton Old Age Home about whether our family or the trustees will be taking responsibility for my father's funeral. 10 days later, my mother passed away. It was claimed that my mother broke a hip, allegedly after tripping over a loose carpet while pushing my father's wheelchair. Due to my parents' medical aid being cancelled by the trustees, my mother had been taken to the Mamelodi State Hospital, where she laid for 10 days before a hip replacement was performed on her. It was also during this time that I had experienced the most disturbing legal onslaughts by Standard Bank South Africa and Wannel Park Body Corporate together, during which my electricity had been disconnected several times, with the sheriff also attempting several times to remove my furniture. You will find a more detailed summary of these 6 consecutive ordeals, referred to as the case, on our website www.sittingbull.co.za under our Interveners Fatherhood Drive. In video 2 of the 10 video series under Broken System, I give a short description of the broken society created by sadistic narcissists who have infiltrated our political arena and judiciary. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to your engagement in our crusade. And don't forget to share.